Can you talk about the musicality, please?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. I don't know how much of this you know, but I was working, I've been working for 20 years or so, 20, 30 years, describing mother-infant communication, and we'd studied baby songs, we studied proto-conversation, we used that concept, and in the very first papers, in 1974 is the first paper on proto-conversation, we realized that the temporal aspect was very important, the rhythm, and the division, and the making of phrases, and of a certain duration and so on. We also knew that the pitch was important. There was a qualitative aspect to the expression of feeling in the level of sound that was made. Now, then when I had done a lot of natural science, I'd done a lot of description of videos of mothers and babies and the recordings of the sounds that they made. And I was giving lectures on this development in the music department. And Stephen Mallock came up to me from Australia. He wanted to speak to a New Zealander anyway, and he said, I'm a musician, and he said, I'm doing musical acoustics in the Department of Physics, doing a PhD in musical acoustics. And he said, I have been developing programs to measure the acoustic properties of music. And he said, I wonder if you would like to apply the techniques of measurement that I'm using to the mother's voice. I said, of course I would. I would be delighted.
Nice.
And so he did it. And then we started working on other songs and proto-conversations and so on. And we saw all these rules, for phrasing and for expression of feeling and that. And he defined the basic parameters using his knowledge of musical physics. He defined them as pulse, which is the intervals of effort in time, and quality, which is the timbre or the pitch of the music, and then finally narrative. And I thought that was the most exciting, because that said that every time you're expressing yourself with a baby, the two of you are making something that has progress and a shape which lasts at least a few seconds. And so we started paying more attention to baby songs, and we found that in all the languages, I think we studied about 23 languages, mostly European, of course. We didn't do any work with Chinese. Anyway, we found there were similar structures. For example, baby songs in all the languages were 4-line stanzas, each stanza lasting between 20 and 40 seconds. So it's amazing, how do they know all these rules? How do they and they are iambic, da 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 da, which is this, again, left, right, asymmetry in walking, and the heel toe, actually, in stepping, is that's iambic. And then the speed of walking is adagio, allegro, presto. So these are words that are used in Italian to describe the speed of walking and music. So we started to think that there's one science, the study of the rhythms and expressive quality and story making of body movements. And that's what we call communicative musicality. Stephen said that once he had spent work with me, he used to have an office at the top of, not this building, but the psychology department where we met. He had an office up there in the building, and he used to spend hours looking at films, mostly looking at films. We had some video, yes, a little bit. We had begun to use video, but there were mainly old films and sound recordings of mothers and babies doing baby songs. and he recognized that he could classify the properties in terms of pitch, rhythm, quality, and narrative. And he said as he was walking downstairs, the word communicative musicality came into his head. Mm-hmm. So that he made that the name. What are you doing with your rhythm? That's an interesting phrase, isn't it? That's an example of a musical phrase. What would you say is the emotion of that brief phrase? Now let's notice this or something. It's not angry.
No.
It's not sad. It's playful.
Yes.
All right. Anyway, enough of that. Working with Stephen was great fun because he was mixing physics with reductive description with very high precision. But on the other side, he was a conductor and a violinist. He was a musician. And not only that, his other occupation is being a counsellor, for people with emotional disorders.
Okay.
So he works with his wife in the counselling business. So there's a mixture in his experience of musical art mm-hmm. and suffering, and the ways in which you can help. Yeah. So he was very, very good to work with.
Something else that you went to?
In the east, in Russia, in the northeast of Russia, there's a big area where the jaw harp is used, and he said that it doesn't make notes that have different pitch. It has sounds which have different quality, different texture or timbre. And so he said, there's a lot of research now trying to find which of the many hundreds of possible theories of the origin of music is true.
Okay.
There was a South African woman who wrote about the origin of language in the savannah, and she said it's a mixture of gestures and what she called grunts, which is not a good word. You can go like that in the savannah, where we're a big, huge landscape, and arm movements can be visible over a long distance. And then with that, you can go, oh, or oh, or ah. All these she calls grunts. But you have to combine it with a gesture.
Yes.
Ah. Oh. And she thinks that a lot of language was like that, but she said what was happening was that they were far apart, they move their hands to draw attention to something over there, and the other person looks, and then you make a sound, and because they're paying attention, they can hear the sound. Mm-hmm. And so they sound, ooh, or, or.
Okay. Do you write some papers about autism? Can you tell
yes.
What do you think about the musicoterapia for the autists?
Well, there's no question at all that it can be very helpful to see. The point is that music therapy, which is responsive music therapy, will be led by the movements of an autistic person. And we're sure now that autism is a condition of incoherent or disintegrated movement. It's movement that is not coherent and planful. And the disturbance in the sequencing and the grouping of the movement patterns, or the gap closures, as you want to call it. I mean, David Lee's description of movement control is very helpful for autism, because it's quite clear that when you look at the movements of an autistic child, and or an autistic adult who's sophisticated, I think the adults know that they're incoherent. That's how they would describe their own feeling, and that's what makes it difficult for them to be in the company of other people, because their incoherence confuses other people, makes other people pull back, so that the other person becomes autistic. And the autistic person is unsure, you know, they lose confidence. Now, we at the moment, Jonathan and I are preparing to write a paper for, do you know the man in, I have to remember the country and the man. The man is, it'll probably come to me. Anyway, he does Autism 360, have you come across that? Meaning 360 degrees.
Yes.
Turning it around.
Yes.
Well, his name is Neophytos.
Yes.
You know him?
Yes.
Okay, well, he has invited us to write a paper, and we've decided to write a paper in collaboration with a very bright autistic woman.
Well, I would like to say thank you very much for the opportunity, for your generosity to give your time.
Yeah, well, I hope you can make profitable use of it. You've got a recording, haven't you?
Yes.
Okay. It's okay. Thank you a lot.